My dad was an entrepreneur. He had his own like 3 or 4 pharmacies growing up. He was definitely into like business and stuff like that, and so I knew that they wanted me to go into college and get my degree in something, but I had no idea what I wanted to get my degree in. And so I was like, well, I'll just try some classes. I took a couple of photo classes and was like, man, there's something here. I still don't feel like I'm like really good at it yet, but there was an interest there. So I started down that path, and they were super supportive. And then I just kept going with it. I took a couple classes at a community college, at Collin County Community College. And then I went to University of North Texas. And so then it was through that, and then getting my BFA in photography, I had to take design and drawing, figure drawing, painting, all that stuff. Through that process, I found my like creativity, my creative side. Because when I was in high school, I sucked at art. I really was not in it good at all. I was just too particular. Everything had to be perfect, and I couldn't get it perfect, so it was really defeating. But then once I got into college, I started learn to gesturally draw and just loosen up and not be so perfect. I started to do really well and started to enjoy it. And then that started to play out in my photography side. I just wanted to be doing something that I kind of enjoyed making a living. I didn't even necessarily see myself at that point being like the photographer. I just kind of wanted to be in photography. I could be an assistant making a living, and at that point, I really didn't have that like big ambition to be this big photographer or anything like that. But it was through my professor, Doherty. She encouraged me like my junior, senior year. She said like, you're actually, pretty good. I think you can do something with this. And I think that encouragement even started to get my mind thinking, man, maybe I could do something with this. So that was kind of the spark that started me down that path, I would say. So my senior year of school, finishing that up, my professor Dornath set me up with an internship. And so I did this internship with, she was an editorial photographer. She was really good, Nancy Newberry. And my whole job was to organize her slide film. She was shooting slide film and then would scan those in, and it was that whole process. This is before digital was kind of like the thing. And I wasn't even getting paid, but I loved every minute of it. Organizing these slides and then like looking at them and seeing like, man, this was in Texas Monthly like a couple of weeks ago, and this was in this magazine. It was totally cool to me. So I did that, and then I started assisting, and I assisted for three and a half years or so. I would assist other professional photographers in Dallas, Stuart Cohen, Adam Fish, Andy Klein, a bunch of others. And during that time, I really learned kind of the business of photography, like what goes into photo shoots. When I was in school, it was more focused on the fine art side, learning what makes a good photo. But then when I was assisting, it was so much more of the actual setup, learning lights, that whole thing, which was just invaluable for me. So I did that, and then I slowly started to try and shoot on my own. And one photographer that I had, or that I was assisting for, Adam Fish, if he couldn't shoot a job, he would try and pass it to me. Just like the small editorial jobs. And so I would shoot a couple of those, and then I just slowly built up my portfolio to where I started trying to get my own jobs, and then it kind of went from there. Some of the bumps, my very first job for an editorial for a magazine. It was passed down by Adam Fish, and I went to shoot it. It was this bartender that had created this drink that was, she creates it and then she lights it on fire, and it was like this cool drink or whatever. And so I was like, all right, I can do this. And so I set up this Octabank on the side, and it was kind of a little bit tricky because you have to get the exposure of the fire and the exposure of the bar, and you're trying to light this person. This is my very first magazine job. So I did it. I thought I got like cool shots. I was still nervous about it. At that time, like the high pass was kind of in, you know, where it looks real kind of gritty and textured and just kind of real contrasting. So I put a high pass on the photos just to try and make it even better because I was super not confident in my own work. I sent them in and I didn't hear anything from them for a long time, for maybe a couple weeks. So I sent an email saying, you know, did you get the photos? Did they work out? Do you guys like them? And the photo editor said, we didn't really care for them, and we had to do a reshoot. And so that was my very first job, and so that was tough. I mean, that was like a stab in the heart, you know, like this is your opportunity, you're finally gonna do it, and then it's a total failure. And so then you're like, well, you know, what do I do now? So but it was a really good experience for me. I'm actually very thankful it happened because two things. One, he said I could charge a kill fee, so if they don't use it, I could still charge them a certain amount of money. And I told him I'm not gonna charge that fee if you'll just give me another opportunity. And he respected that a lot. And he gave me another opportunity to shoot some interiors of some new store or something. And because I didn't do very well on the first job, I wanted to do perfect on these next ones. So I worked my butt off. And I did great. They loved the images, and then so he gave me another assignment and loved the images, and so we worked together for like 6 or 7 years. And they were my most consistent magazine I worked with early on. So it seemed to be really bad, but in the end, it was actually really good. So my kind of overall specialty is, I would say, editorial. That's what I enjoy the most, is shooting editorial, which is magazines. I'll still shoot some commercial advertising stuff, but my focus is on editorial. And then underneath editorial, I'll shoot portraits and like architectural stuff mainly. So those two kind of things. So people and places, which works out well because if it's a magazine and say it's a travel magazine, they're doing a story over this new hotel, I could shoot the owner of the hotel, the chef, you know, the bellboy, but then I could shoot the whole, you know, interior of this hotel and kind of the scene. And so it works really well for editorial and for stories and stuff like that. So that's what I enjoy the most. I enjoy going to places I haven't been before, meeting people I haven't met before. And if a magazine's doing a story over, you know, this person I'm going to be shooting, there's something interesting about them. They've done something cool, or they're interesting in some, you know. So that's the kind of stuff I really love. Doing that. I'll shoot commercial stuff. Some of the editorial stuff will lead to commercial, so I'll shoot this house for a magazine, and then the architect of that house will hire me to shoot these other houses, and so then that's when it turns to a commercial shoot. And editorial, the pay is lower on a scale with all the other ones, but the commercial I could charge a much higher day rate and make a lot more money. And so those I enjoy a little less because it's a little more I don't know, corporate, but it allows me to do what I really enjoy, the editorial, and make a good living at it.